ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Kamran Hijama podcast. Today, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Lisa. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Lisa is an atheist, doesn't believe in God, and I've invited her on for us to have a chat and talk through kind of what's brought her to this conclusion and what her current views are. And hopefully she'll ask me a few questions and I'll ask her a few questions and we'll have a good chat. So Lisa, first of all, I speak to hundreds of different people with different views and different beliefs. I've spoke to atheists, and a lot of atheists have different views. So what's your definition of atheism?
For me, I just don't believe in God. I just believe in like how you live your life, be a good person. Everybody's healthy and happy, then that's fine. But I just don't believe that there's one person that should like dictate how you live your life, or like as a be all and end all for me.
Okay. And were you brought up religious?
So my family's not religious, but the school I went to, like we went to Sunday school, and my mum and dad were very much believe what you want to believe. Like, they didn't push anything on me. And if I liked it and I wanted to believe in God, then that was absolutely fine. I went to like Girls' Brigade, which is run by the church. Um, my papa believed, so he was like quite for God. Um, but I never believed. I wanted to believe. I've been to Scripture Union camps and stuff, so I've been around like sort of quite a lot of like um Christian religions. My neighbours who are like family are Catholics. I've got some amazing friends who are Muslim. So I've had quite a different array of different religious views.
Uh-huh. So your main exposure to religion has been through Catholic Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because when I think every atheist that I've spoke to has been a former Christian or they've had a Christian upbringing. And when you look at the state of Christianity today, Christianity is broken because there's hundreds of different sects, there's hundreds of different versions of the Bible. The Olympics did a starting ceremony mocking Jesus, which is the Christian God, and they did nothing about it. Like, that shows the world that Christianity is completely broken at its root. And the amount of people who leave Christianity, the numbers are very, very, very high, very high. And to me, it makes sense because when I read the Bible, it doesn't matter what version it is, King James Version, New Standard Version, doesn't matter, that there are errors and contradictions in that book. And when I speak to Christians, when I debate or discuss with Christians, I point it out to them. And I'm like, look, here is an error, here is a contradiction. How can this book be from God? If God is perfect, how can there be errors in the scripture? So I completely agree with you. I relate to you on that. The Christian God or the Christian viewpoint is flawed. And there's been debate with the highest Christian scholars, with all sorts of people from different religions or even with atheists. And the Christians lose every single time. Every single time they lose, they do. And that's just the reality. So I understand what you're saying, be a good person and all that kind of stuff, which I agree with. Who created the universe?
The Big Bang.
Right. Do you know, first of all, that the Quran mentions the Big Bang? Have you ever heard of that? Has anyone ever said that to you?
Time.
I'm saying that the Quran, the Islamic scripture, the Quran mentions the Big Bang. It says the heavens and the earth were once together and we separated them. And that separation was the Big Bang. And then that separation also talks about kind of how the universe is expanding. So if something separates, it's expanding, right? So have you ever looked into that viewpoint to be like, okay, well, the Quran mentions the Big Bang because the theory of the Big Bang, it's a theory, right? Because they say, oh, there was just gases floating around and they merged and it was a bit, yeah, but who put the gases there? Where did they come from?
You don't know a lot about science, so like we're just one small planet in a massive black hole of endless nothingness. Who knows what happens anywhere else in the whole universe? Do you know? I don't know. You
What's the
don't know. Nobody knows.
well? You're saying nobody knows. I'm saying it's God because there has to be a start. Everything is created, right? If you look around you, pen, phone, whatever, everything has a creation. Everything has a manual. Your phone that you're using to have this conversation, it came with a user manual,
Mhm.
right? So if someone said to you, "Oh, your phone, it was just created," what would you call them, or what would you
So
say?
who then created God?
Right, great question.
Yeah.
The logical conclusion. So I always answer this question in two parts. I say, look, God is uncreated because there has to be a beginning. It has to end somewhere. Who created you? Who created your parents? Who created them? Da, 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 da. It goes all the way back. There has to be a beginning. Otherwise, this conversation wouldn't be happening between me and you. Right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is the question of who created God falls outside of the rules of time and space. It's like if I said to you, my mate John, he's pregnant. Do you think he's going to have a boy or a girl?
You wouldn't know. 50-50.
Well, my mate John,
Oh yeah, well he could be transgender also. He could have been Jesse and then turned into John and still has a womb.
my mate,
Ovary.
okay, I understand, but my mate John, who was born a biological male, never been
Yeah.
transgender, he's now 20 years old, he's pregnant. Do you think he's going to have a boy or a girl?
Probably don't think he's going to have a baby
Why?
because he doesn't have a female reproductive
Right.
system.
So the question doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Right. Same when someone says who created God, the question itself doesn't make sense.
So
Because
then for me, God doesn't make sense. Like if you can't say where it came from, then how can you say God
the
put
uncreated.
whatever gas is? Like if it doesn't make sense, that's where it stops for me. I can't then believe just some
Okay.
random thing that doesn't make sense happened, and then I believe
So
that
you're
they've
happy,
been an
so you're happy to believe that the universe just appeared out of a bang. That's okay. But believing in the logical conclusion of there was a creator or there is a creator, that doesn't make sense to you.
How is it logic when you just said it, it's not really though? You just have to believe, like,
No, you
because
don't
how
have
can
to
you?
believe.
Yeah, not
When
have to, but you know,
yeah, when you go further
your
into
theory
it,
sort of went back on itself a wee bit
how
because said, how could you not believe? Like, you just have to say something started somewhere.
yeah, of course it
So
does,
who
because
could say?
everything around you has a creation, has a creator.
Mhm.
So logically, we have a creator. It's logic.
I, I, I disagree
Right?
with your logic, which
And
is
I respect
absolutely
that.
fine.
So that's one way of looking at it is logic. The second way is okay, well, how do we see God? Right? Where's the proof of God? And Muslims, the Muslim viewpoint is that God sent messengers and who brought revelations to us. Then you have the Quran, right? Now, Muslims do believe that God sent down the Bible and he sent down the Torah and he sent down the Psalms. And over time, people changed, altered those books for their own agenda, which is why today you have so many different versions. The Quran is one, unchanged, 1400 years. It's never been, no contradictions, no errors. You've mentioned the Big Bang, so we'll focus on science. There are over 1,000 verses in the Quran which speak of science, right? It mentions the Big Bang. It mentions the exact stages of embryology. So, like a sperm cell turning to a baby, the exact stages. It mentions physics. It mentions chemistry. It mentions the ecosystem. It mentions biology. Like there's so many different scientific facts which have been proven by scientists. And the question I always ask people is, okay, how could an illiterate man from the desert 1400 years ago have known these things?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually completely agree with a lot of the religion. I don't disagree with a lot of it. The way people behave, science behind it, everything. It's just I personally just don't believe in God. I can completely appreciate everyone's opinion on it, the science behind it. There is a lot of science in it, the way people should behave and treat others and kindness. I believe so much of it. It's just the God aspect I don't believe.
Maybe okay, maybe you don't want to use the word God,
Mhm.
but some people use the word creator, some people use the word higher power. You can use whatever word you want to use, right?
Mhm.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, if okay, what's your answer on it? What's your viewpoint on it? What if someone was to ask you, well, where did we
Like,
come from? All that. What's your viewpoint on it?
well, where does a lot of things come from? I say there's just so many unanswered questions about the universe. I don't have an answer. It hurts my head when I think about it. I don't know where we came from. Um, could have been a bit of gas in the atmosphere that's caused an explosion. Like, you know, how natural disasters happen. Like, where does lava come from? We know how tsunamis happen because the plates move and creates waves. Like, things just happen because of chemical reactions in my head. And obviously, if you look at different animals, how they adapt our ways of living, like things just change. I don't know why they change. I don't know how they change. I would put it down to science. 100% not sure. I just don't believe there's a higher power or someone controlling all of that. It's just
Okay, how come you don't ask yourself where those gases came from, though? You say, oh well, it could be some reactions. How come you don't ask yourself? Okay, I believe there was gases and they could have reacted. Where did they come from?
it doesn't really affect my life that much to think about it.
Does it? Does it not?
Not really, not on a day-to-day basis, nah.
What happens when you die?
Um, Nothing. You die and you get burned or you get
Do you believe in justice?
injustice.
Because you said you're a good person, so a good
Yeah,
person believes in justice,
yeah,
right? Hitler
yeah,
killed 6 million Jews.
he did.
You, a good person, living your
Mhm.
life, doing good deeds, being a good person. Do you think that it's fair? Now remember, you said you're a good person, you believe in justice. Do you think it's
Mhm.
fair for death to be the end for you and for him? And that's it. He's lived his life as a dictator, robbing people, causing corruption, murdering people, living a lavish lifestyle. You're working a 9 to 5, struggling through life, but still being a good person, not stealing, not doing nothing. How is death fair? Where's the justice in that?
There isn't justice in it, but when you die, you're dead. Like
So
you
do
can't do
you
anything
not,
about it.
okay, does that not make you think, well, that's not fair? How come shouldn't he get punished? Shouldn't he get further punishment for living his life like that? When you look at
Um,
people
I, I would like to think so. I would
like,
like to think he was burning in some lovely hell, but I just don't believe that. I don't believe there's like the equivalent of a heaven or a hell. I would like to think in my like so what I believe, which I think is untrue, but I think somewhere in the world I like to believe there's a book and you've got a day that you come in, a day you go out, doesn't matter what happens in between. And then there's a big area somewhere, it's not heaven, where you get to see your family. And that's it. I think that was true. I think the lights
yeah,
go out and that's it.
we all would like a lot of things, but
hmm
you need to look at logic. You need to look at things like common sense.
hmm
Common sense and logic to me say that yeah, we should get rewarded for being good, and
hmm
evil or bad people should get punished for being bad. It's
hmm
not fair. There's no, how can that be that people like Leopold, or if you look at history, people like Caesar and all these evil emperors, how could it be that, oh, well, that's it, they're just death and that's it, finished, turned to dust and that's it? How is that fair?
How is a lot of things fair in life?
Like what?
You know, just anything. Like, why do people have really good health and make really bad choices, but people who live their life as best they can, whether it be through religion or not, never touch a cigarette in their life, or lying in a hospital bed dying of lung cancer or riddled with cancer, and they could have been the best people in the world. Like bad things happen, and not a lot you can do about it sometimes. Sometimes it's just life.
Why do bad things happen?
It's a good question. Who knows? Like, why is there cancer? Why is there drunk drivers killing innocent people? Why is there murderers or rapists? Like, why is that? I
Yeah,
don't know.
good question. It's a great question. Again,
Hmm.
answer it in two parts. What age do you think humans should live until?
I don't think there is. I don't think you can give a time limit. I think until, like, if you've got a quality of life, like, I find it really sad. Like, in my profession, you see people who really have no quality of life anymore. And I think that's really sad. But I think as long as like you're healthy and you're happy and like you want to be here, do you know, like I think we should live until then.
Yeah, but what age?
There
Give me,
isn't an age.
give me a number.
Can't give an age. I've
Is
seen a
every
101
person?
year old women walking about doing their shopping, living their best life, and
Yeah.
that's fine. So I can't say has to be
Do you agree that?
120 and you're lying like a bag of bones.
Yeah.
Not there
No,
isn't
I
an
agree.
age.
I understand what you're saying. Do you agree that every person is going to die at some point?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you think people should die? In what
Um,
way should they go?
where should they go?
No, no. In what way should they go? Like get shot, cancer? Like, how do you think people should die?
Um, how do I think they should die? Old age in their beds and not felt any pain or undoing. Sometimes when you get older, your heart just stops. And I
Mm.
think that would be a nice way to go.
And it's so interesting because Muslims pray for that. We make dua, which is a prayer, a specific prayer. We say, "Oh Allah, give us a long life and take us in our sleep." That is the best way to go, right?
Mhm.
Now, you agree that we have free will, right?
Yep.
When you talk about murder and death and rape and all that kind of stuff, that's people exercising their free will. If
Yep.
people were to follow the Quran, there'd be none of that. There'd be no murder, no rape, no poverty, no badness at all anywhere in the world. So that's
Mhm.
our mission. The Muslim mission is to, or the prophetic mission was to bring people to the oneness of God, to believe in his oneness, to believe in the prophets, and then also to follow the blueprint, which is the Quran, to live a good life.
Mhm.
But the truth of life is that death is the biggest truth of life, isn't it? Everyone's going to go. And there isn't one specific way people go because of those things that you mentioned. The murder and cancer is caused by what? It's caused by what you eat, the pollution in the air, what we drink,
Mhm.
all these different medicines that we take with side effects. So again, it's all man-made. Cancer is a man-made illness. It never used to be around thousands of years ago. It's a modern illness, which we've created. That's our fault. Our position is that life is a test, and the examiner is always quiet during the test. Right?
Mhm.
God's not going to come down and say, "Oh, don't eat that," and all that kind of stuff, because it would defeat the purpose of the test. Doesn't that make more sense than simply saying, "Oh, well, I don't know, maybe, possibly, could be"?
But then it becomes difficult because I don't have a religion. As I've already said, I agree with quite a lot of your religion, but I don't plan on
You do
murdering
have a religion.
or I've never stole a thing in my life. I don't see myself doing that, but I'm not Muslim. But then
You do
you
have a
look at
religion.
other countries as
Hmm.
well, where obviously it's not religion, it then falls into culture. But
Hmm.
if you look at, say, for instance, like Iraq just now, it's like a Muslim country, and I don't see peace there.
Yeah, well, Iraq
So,
was living.
you know, and
Iraq
I mean
was
that in a
living.
big way.
No, absolutely. Iraq was living peacefully. And then America went and invaded it, saying that they had weapons of mass destruction, and they didn't. And afterwards, they went, "Oh, we made a mistake. 1 million people dead. Oops, we made a mistake. Sorry." Nobody was held accountable. And now the place is just an absolute war zone because there's puppet governments and all that kind of stuff there. And again, that's humans exercising their free will. That was America that did that. Um,
Take now, for instance, America's gone. We know America's gone.
no, they're not gone.
It's have they not?
No,
I knew they definitely pulled back, but
no, they didn't pull back. They installed a puppet government. So they invaded Iraq, installed a government, and then they control that government from afar. So they never left Iraq.
So take, for instance, your religion is still peace, love, don't hurt people, no rapists, no murderers, etc. But why is that then still going on regardless of other people's free will?
But you can't say regardless of free will, it's free will. It's
Yeah, so
people.
you're saying like the Americans are then controlling it, but take a back step. If the Americans are controlling it as a Muslim, should you not still be following the Prophet? And
We absolutely do. You'd have to look at data. This is where things like data and statistics start to come in.
Mhm.
The rape rate in America compared to Iraq, it's like this. I think the last I checked is a rape happens in America every 90 seconds.
fair. I look at numbers and I
Yeah.
appreciate, but can I
And
also
yeah.
ask you how many women who it's common that obviously it's better now, but women didn't quite have as much free speech, well,
Oh,
etc.,
yeah.
as they did.
Good. I agree.
And so how many women are reporting it?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Look, when you look at women's rights and the voice of women, and you mentioned that word before, the key word is culture. Islam gives them
Exactly.
right, but culture takes it away. Like the right to vote. You, as a British woman, you were only given a right to vote about, I think it's about 85 years ago, whereas Muslim women could vote 1400 years ago. So they had a 1,400 year advantage over you. Their money, a Muslim woman's money, tongue twister, is her money. She doesn't have to spend. The man has to spend on the bills. He has to provide. He has to protect. Her money's her money. She can do whatever she wants with it. A woman's got a right to inheritance, and the list goes on of rights that women have had in Islam for 1400 years that Western women have only just recently fought for. Western women fought for the right to work. I don't know why you'd fight for the right to work. Who in their right mind wants to get up and go to work? Nobody. Nobody wants to work. But Islam gave that right to women 1400 years ago. That's what I'm saying. The religion, and look, Muslims, we have our own internal battles going on, and it is against culture. I'm constantly battling against culture. It's a
Mhm.
disease, it's a poison to religion.
I think that's maybe one of the things um like I don't agree with a lot of the culture. I can appreciate the religion. I can appreciate what it stands for and what you should do, but I just don't understand how they come together. Like if you
Yeah.
like want to follow your life and be that way, then the culture wouldn't be there, wouldn't exist the way it does.
Yeah, it's very, there's a lot of misogyny that goes on, a lot of sexism, belittling, domestic abuse, domestic violence. If you look at Pakistanis in Britain, it's a very, very, very simple answer, and it's horrible. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh were one country. There was an empire called the Mughal Empire, which was an Islamic empire, and it's the most peaceful, most profitable empire in Islamic history in that part of the world, right? And the East India Trading Company, which is essentially England. I don't know if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, the East India. So they went over to that part of the land, literally invaded. This is a long story short. Invaded the land, took over, occupied it for 300 years, stole over $45 trillion worth of spices and jewels and all sorts, natural resources. It left the country with nothing, right? Later on, they then caused a war between the Muslims and the Hindus, who had lived side by side peacefully for hundreds of years. Then they caused the divide. Pakistan was created. Later on, Bangladesh was created. The people from those lands to get a better to get a better life or to find a better life, they came west. A lot of them ended up in England. They lost two or three generations lost the right to education. A lot of men were going to work at 9, 10 years old, 11 years old, should be at school, but they're working to provide for the families. So if you've lost 3 generations of education, and there's no Islamic education in there either, which means no reading the Quran, no understanding the Quran. They're just going to make their own up. They're either going to get influenced by the West, or they're just going to make it up as they go because they can't pick up a book and read. They've got a lot of them are illiterate. That's where the knowledge gap came from. So they came away from the Quran and they came into culture. A lot of Pakistani culture is Hindu culture. And most of it is Hindu culture. The only difference between me and my dad is, what did I get in this country? Education. As soon as the first generation got educated, the first thing I do is ask questions. Right? Now, the answers to those questions are provided by history. They're provided by religious scripture, religious text. Am I a misogynist? No. Am I a believer in domestic abuse? Absolutely not. Do I support women's rights? Absolutely, 100%. I'm an advocate for women's rights in Islam because they're so beautiful. Who are the greatest women that ever lived, in my opinion? Mother of Jesus, the wives of the prophets. These women are amazing women. You know, you say independent women and all that kind of stuff. That's the new wave. These women were the true bosses. If you study history. So that kind of answers the question as to why there's so much culture in this country, and you see it, and you've probably been told stories and stuff, and it's horrible, but me and you are on the same page with that. If you were to become Muslim, for example, you would be part of the fight against culture because there's no place for it in Islam.
Which I completely agree with. Like, I get it. I get your point.
Yeah.
I just find it difficult now. People are more educated, and I've seen like firsthand as well how people are living their lives and maybe not enjoying it to their fullest potential because of culture, which is then going against like their actual beliefs because of culture, which I think is a shame.
We're not speaking, yeah, but again, I'm not here to speak about culture. I'm not talking about Islam
No,
itself.
100%.
You know, have
I
you?
think it's quite relevant though, because obviously a lot of it that I've seen and like my exposure with neighbours and people that I've met, like culture is a big part of it as well though. To
It's all sorts of
understand.
cultures. Look at how many British-born white people revert to Islam. Thousands. Their culture that they were brought up on is the pub, going to the pub every other day, living for the weekend. You know, that kind of culture. They had their fights, but they came away from it. They came to Islam. They came to it. We don't want that culture. We want to live the way God wants us to live. So there are cultural, even the African culture, there's so many issues within their culture. And I speak to all sorts of people. So yeah, absolutely. You know, there is a fight against culture, but culture isn't what I'm here to talk about or defend. It exists. It's a poison. It shouldn't. I'm here to talk about God, the existence of God, the oneness of God, his signs, his revelations, his books, his prophets, the evidence, the proof that's out there. The Quran, for example, no contradictions, no errors, full of science. It made predictions. The thing that blew my mind was, imagine what area you from in. Actually, don't say that. Say you're a person from Gorbals, right? See, I know Scotland really well, Glasgow. The Quran said that Arabia would defeat the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire, right? Or the Byzantine Empire. That's like me saying to you, Goebbels is going to defeat Russia and America. Like literally, that's the equivalent. What would you say to me?
And probably laugh.
Yeah, you'd laugh your ass off. You'd be like, yeah, all right, mate, jog on. Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah. But that's what happened. The Muslims defeated the Romans. The Muslims defeated the Persians, the Byzantines. Those empires collapsed. Like these are big, giant empires that have been around for hundreds of years. The most advanced weapons, the most number of people, and you can read history, they collapsed. The Muslims defeated them. The Muslims reigned. We came as far as Spain. There was a Muslim rule, did you know, in Spain for 600 years. And a lot of parts, if you look at Spanish people, darker skin, black hair, right? And it's because a lot of them are descendants of Muslims. That's what I'm saying to you. Like the signs are all there. Look, I completely understand you saying, oh, well, maybe, possibly. But I think at some point I say to all atheists, look, obviously there's no compulsion in religion. There's no force. We are here. My job is to deliver the message. God guides whom he wills. And I pray that God opens your heart. But I think at some point for people, there has to be, they should ask themselves and think, well, can you live your entire life saying, yeah, maybe, possibly, could be? Somebody asked me, how would you feel if you died and then realized none of it was true? And I said, I wouldn't feel as bad as you'll feel if you die and realize that it is true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, not valid.
And you were saying that you don't have a religion. You do have a religion. Your religion is be a good person. That's your religion because you follow that, you believe in it. It's the first thing that you said. So you are religious. Does that make sense? What I
Yeah.
would love to do is we will talk further, but I would love for you to read. Have you ever read the Quran?
No.
Right. I would love for you to read it. I always say to people, don't reject something until you've read it. I read the Torah, the Bible, the Gospels, the Quran, the Sikh scriptures. I even went further and read all the Hindu scriptures and everything. I'm not a Muslim because my dad is. No, I'm a Muslim because I've read it, understood it, questioned it, and then believed it. And that's what every person should do. So I would love for you to read it. Have you ever came across any flaws in Islam? Have you ever came across anything?
I don't know enough about it to say yes. So I love learning about all religions. I watch like a lot of documentaries into it. I have read into stuff. I've not sat down and specifically focused on one religion. I just think knowledge about how other people live their lives, and my biggest thing is about respecting other people. So as I said, like one of my friends is a Muslim, and my biggest thing is respecting her.
Mm.
Because I would hate to cross a boundary, even when it came down to making cakes. I checked there was no alcohol in the vanilla essence, because that's just, I think I should respect everyone,
Yeah.
and everyone should respect each other. So I will go out my way to make sure that I'm respecting someone's religious beliefs, like at every cost.
Mm.
So I know stuff, but not a lot about any religion.
Respect is one of the basic foundations of Islam. Respecting all people and respecting especially religious people. And there's mention of that in the Quran as well. We're supposed to protect monasteries. We're supposed to protect churches, synagogues. We're supposed to protect these places of worship, even though we don't agree. We still have to protect them. If you had to give one answer to the following question, what would it be? Where do we come from? Where do we go afterwards? Like one answer. So, sorry, where do we come from? What's our purpose in life? And then what happens after we die?
Where do we come from? I don't know. Sole purpose on this life? I don't know. I don't know what purpose is. We just all exist. And where do we go after? Nowhere. Into the ground or onto someone's mantelpiece.
Yeah. When I look at the beauty and perfection of the universe, and I look at it and I think, well, I used to think this is before so I was born and raised Muslim, but I was never practicing when I was a kid. I believed in God, but I was just like, why? Because I was brought up in culture and not Islam. So I used to always think, it has to be something. If you look at the perfection, look, if the sun was any closer to the earth, we would all burn. If the moon was any closer to the earth, the sea levels would rise and we'd all drown. And the distance between Earth and the nearest star, meteorite, planet, it's exact distance away so that we're not too close. We don't fall into each other's gravitational pulls and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, that couldn't have just happened. Come on.
Things just happen.
But that's the point, isn't it? That things don't just happen. Name something that just happens, like with proof and evidence.
I don't have.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? And I'm
I've
like,
not looked into it enough to.
right. And look, your search, everybody's on a search for answers, whether they agree with that or not. We're all looking for these answers. Your search has brought you here. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here speaking to me. It's not a coincidence, right? And it's like, and I mentioned earlier, I was going to give you a Quran to read. What is something that can, because you've got an open mind, right? I'm assuming, I hope you've got an open mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got an open, I say to someone, if you find a single error, a contradiction in the Quran, I'll go straight to the pub, pour up myself a pint, and enjoy it while watching the match. Straight away. It's the first thing I would do, right? Because well, why am I missing out on all these things if there's not a God and if it's not real? We said earlier that everything's got a creator. You agree with that? So why do you stop at God? Because everything around you is created. Why do you why do you put a full stop there and be like, yeah, everything's created, but is it because you can't see him?
I think because if everything's created, then God would need to have a creator, and we delved into that at the beginning, and it just sort of backtracked because it was like, no, you just have to, like, it
Yeah,
felt
imagine you asked me
contradictory.
if you said to me who created this pen, and I said, hold on,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna ask this person, and they say, hold on, I'm just gonna ask this person, and they say, hold on, I'm just gonna ask this person, and it keeps going. Well, you're never gonna get
Mhm.
the answer because it's just
Mhm.
keep going for infinity. It would never end. So logically, there has to be a beginning. There has to be a starting point because everything that you can see and touch has been created. So that's
Then
logic.
logically, then there was before God because God would have been created, and then who created before God, if that's the logical way to look at it. And
But again, that would keep going. So that's not logical. That's illogical because that would keep going, wouldn't it? There wouldn't be a beginning.
then
And
that's,
then it wouldn't be God, would it?
well,
God
that's
is
the
the,
point.
if we say,
Your logic just went back to front because if logically it takes you back to God, then, but logically everything was created, then if everything was created, God was created, who created God, but
we
God
don't
apparently
say,
created.
no, we don't say everything was created. We say God created everything,
Right.
right? So that's the starting point. God is the
Okay.
start. When we say he's the all-powerful, the all-knowing, the most wise. So we present you with a starting point. It's like I watched this video and the guy saying, the Muslims are sat having a feast, right? We like to eat spicy curry, a few bathroom trips, uh, pakoras and small. We're having a big feast. And the atheist comes in and says, lasses, come outside. And we go outside to the atheist and say, yeah, what's up? And he goes, nothing. And the lads go, yeah, but where we're going? And they go, don't know. Because it's like you're not offering anything at all. And that, to me, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to live your life based on, I don't know, it could be possibly, I don't know. Like, where's that? It just doesn't make sense to me. I can't fathom that. And then when proof or logic is put in front of you, in front of people who reject God, they reject it. They reject logic. And I'm like, all right, peace be upon you, and I'll pray for you. Just makes sense to me.
I can appreciate that. But then from my point of view, it's not logical what you're saying. I appreciate your opinion and I totally respect it. And I respect that a book and I respect that God was the creator of everything in your eyes and a lot of people's eyes, and that's amazing. And I would love to believe in something. I really would. I just don't because it doesn't make sense. I don't know if it's any physical proof in front of me. Um, I like to research things. I like information, and I like probably quite like yourself. Like you read everything, and you came to the Quran, and that's amazing for you. I
Mm.
just can't believe that one higher power came out of nowhere, out of nothing, and created a solar system. Like, why just Earth then? Why is it just Earth that people are on? We know Mars is there.
Who
We
said
know all these,
it's
like,
just Earth?
why?
The Muslim
So,
prayer, The Muslim
See,
prayer
sorry.
begins with Alhamdulillah. Sorry, the Muslim prayer begins with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, which means
Mhm.
praise Allah, Lord of the worlds, plural. And it's mentioned in the Quran that there are other worlds. So we agree with that completely.
Okay.
Why they've been created, what God's doing with them, what's going on over there, that's between God and them. It's got nothing to do with us. It's not going to affect me in my life. When I die, when I go into the grave, it's not going to affect me what some alien's doing on Jupiter. Fair play to him, whatever. It's none of my business. What are people studying? People study quantum mechanics and all that kind of stuff. They're doing that. It's not my place to go and speak because I'm not interested in that, but I know what's going on. Does that make sense? Do you believe that you had a great, 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 great granddad?
Yes,
Why?
because I've got family who came from other family and it just
You've
came
not
down the
seen
line.
him,
So,
but you've not seen him.
but I know my mum had a mum and she had a mum and
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You believe it, but you don't say. Do you believe your dad's your dad?
yes.
Why?
I don't know, I trust my mum.
Why? It's
Cheat on
true.
my dad.
But there you go. But that's the truth, isn't it? It's trust. There are things that we do blindly follow, like that.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, my dad's my dad, but you don't actually know for a fact that he is your dad. And I'm just giving an example. If your parents are watching, it's just an example. But we do blindly follow things because they logically make sense.
Mhm.
Your dad has shown you that he's, a man and he's raised you and he's protected and provided and he's done all of the things. And that's what we see, that God has done all those things for us, that he's provided us with everything that we need, with sustenance, with family, with partners, with children, with opportunities, with water, with sun, with rain, all these things he gives us. And the life after death one, come on. You said you believe in justice. You said you're a good person. All of the look at this world. Look at how this world is, right? And who caused it? Man, woman, humans. We've done this. You're telling me that those people don't deserve punishment. They don't deserve to be judged for what they've done and what they're putting me and you through every single day. Okay, you're a woman living in 2024. It's easier for you. Women back in the day, in this country, if you were smart, oh, she's a witch. What? For having an opinion or for saying something clever, I'm a witch. What do they used to do? Hang women up or throw them in,
Burn them.
burn them.
Burn
Right,
them.
there you go. Sorry. Imagine, right? You're telling me those people don't deserve to be punished. The Holocaust, what's going on over there in Palestine, the Middle East, what's happened in America, what did they do to the native Indians? Genocide. You're telling me those people don't deserve punishment?
I think those people deserve education and less power.
But they're dead now.
I know.
So we can't give them education. But they can be judged. They can be punished further. And by the way, I'm not saying because I'm a Muslim, I'm not going to go to hell. But that belief in his oneness and in his prophets, one day I will go to heaven. God might send me to hell for a year, for 5 minutes to punish me for things that I've done. But at the same time, because I believe in him and his oneness, we are going to go to heaven. Anyone who believes in Jesus was a Muslim. And people laugh at me when I say that. And you mentioned education. Abraham was a Muslim. Moses was a Muslim. Well, what does Muslim mean? It means anyone who submits their will to God. And those people did that. They were Muslims. If you submit your will to God and believe in his prophets, you're a Muslim. That's it. Do you believe Jesus and Muhammad existed?
No.
What's brought you to that conclusion?
Don't believe someone can die and come back to life.
Oh, Muslims don't believe Jesus died. We believe he
Yeah,
was
but I'm talking from a
raised alive.
Christianity point of view. It's
So
obviously
I agree with
he
you.
went in a tomb.
Yeah.
And he was dead for 3 days and then he was resurrected. I think that's nonsense.
Makes no sense. To me, that makes no sense. We believe God says in the Quran that we raised Jesus alive. He was raised alive. No mention of him died. So again, look, we have these. When a Western person thinks of Jesus, that's what they think of naturally. It's what you learned in school. It's what you were taught as a kid. But I say to people, you have to unlearn everything you've been taught. Not everything, like English and maths and stuff, but a lot of stuff you have to unlearn it, question it, and relearn it. Because I believe we have been fully like brainwashed in all of these stories. And again, Pakistani culture as well. There's a lot of stories where it's like me and my brothers laugh about it now. Like, you know that story that mum used to. It's not Islamic, is it? And like, oh yeah, it's like it's just made up nonsense. When you look at it from the Islamic viewpoint, everything makes logical sense. Honestly, everything makes sense.
Can honestly, like from what I know, which is not a lot, I can really appreciate that. If I was to choose a religion, I think Islam's probably the one I would like relate to the most. I've openly said that I just don't believe in God.
Oh, that
I,
makes
I
me so happy.
genuinely, I agree with it. Obviously, we spoke a bit about culture. I don't agree with the culture, but the belief system of how you live your life as a person. But I also feel I just don't agree with some of the restrictions. I think
Tell me
like
them.
one of the things. So I totally believe you're born the way you're born. Doesn't matter what you do. Like, you can't help who you are. So, for instance, gay people. I have got full respect for anyone who is gay, and obviously, I know culturally and Islamically it's very different for what actually happens, but obviously it's still not agreed upon in Islam, and you would get punished, but you're just getting punished for how you're born. Um, and I don't agree with that. Why should you have to go to hell for however long because you've been gay in your life? And then obviously culturally it's very different as well. But we're not talking about culture because we're here to talk about religion. I don't understand why it's a sin. That's like I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, well,
Why is it a sin?
yeah, I'll
Because
come.
someone said no, that's not. Mm-mm.
Okay, I'll come to that. There is not a single atom's worth of scientific proof that people are born gay. It's impossible. There's no proof. That isn't a viewpoint. It's an opinion. There's no proof. Whether you look at it from a religious viewpoint or a scientific viewpoint, there is no proof.
Is there any proof that you were born heterosexual?
Yes, biology.
I disagree with that.
I have males have reproductive organs.
Mm-hmm.
That's proof. We have reproductive organs to impregnate women. That is proof. Biology is proof.
Disagree.
You can't argue with science. You can argue with maybe God, maybe not. Maybe you can't argue with a scientific fact. You can't argue with it. You can't. I always say to people, judge Islam on its teachings, not on its followers. I say to people, come back to do what the God and the Prophet said. You mentioned the G spot in men is there. We go back to test. You know what I said to you, like life is a test.
Mm-hmm.
We are supposed to suppress some of our desires. They asked 100 men, what do you want in heaven? 100 men said, more women. They asked 100 women, what do you want in heaven? They all gave different answers. I want to be with my husband. I want to be with my mates. I want to be with my mom. I want to be with my dad. I want to be with a pony. I want to be invited. All different answers because we know what we want. But in this world, we're supposed to be faithful and contain our desires. Every single man wants more women. If anyone says the opposite of that, sorry, every single heterosexual man. And I always tease my gay friends about that as well. I'm like, you don't just want to be faithful to one day. And men are very honest. When men speak to men, and I'm sure it's probably the same when women speak to women. It's completely different. I say to them, mate, come on. You just do that with the face and like, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's a test. It's to contain. It's to suppress. We don't suppress all of our desires. God has gave us channels to practice them. If every single person in the world was gay, what would happen in 80 years?
Don't disagree with you. There would be no one. I completely agree, but I don't.
I
I feel
can
like
look
it's a bit
at a man.
contradictory.
I
It's
can look
saying
at a
it's
man.
there for a woman is a blessing, but there is a man for a test, and
Not
it's
because
not
men do get
something.
pleasure. No, 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 no. It would be contradictory if women get pleasure and men don't get pleasure. We absolutely do get pleasure. We
But
have avenues of pleasure, of course. So there's no contradiction there.
I mean, with gay men, it's pleasurable for them also. I wouldn't do it.
Okay. You
They
say
didn't like it and they weren't attracted to it.
it's pleasurable. Now,
Mm.
AIDS, medical conditions, that kind of stuff is there. How do I word this? If you look at the statistics in diseases that are born from homosexuality, do you agree with that? Sorry,
Um,
I'll reword the question. What's your view on that?
I would
Literally,
have to, I would have to research into AIDS. I know, obviously, it was very common in the homosexual.
world
I don't know where it started. I don't know where it started, and
diseases.
it didn't.
Forget
I
AIDS.
don't believe it.
Other
Yeah,
diseases. They are. This look. You can fact check this stuff. These aren't just my opinions. I've researched this stuff too. I can look at a man. When I was growing up, Brad Pitt, that's a handsome guy. I can look at him and appreciate that's a handsome guy. We say the Muslim position on that is homosexuality is a desire, much like wanting more women, a man wanting 2, 3 women, 4 women, whatever, 10 women. In the case of Solomon, 1,000 women, right? It's a desire that you have to suppress.
so how do you answer it from a woman's point of view then, as a lesbian? Because you said women know what they want.
Right.
Um,
Great question. Every lesbian that I've spoken to, the common theme is either a difficult upbringing, no father, not hear the full answer in context. Difficult upbringing, no father figure, abusive boyfriend, abusive husband, found solace in other women. That's one answer. And the second answer was influence. Oh, well, I can't remember that. Is it Dieter von Teese? Is that right? I don't know.
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I used to watch her videos and I was attracted to it, and pornography and all that kind of stuff. So it was being exposed to desire. And that's what led these people that way. They weren't born that way. So it was either, like I said, I'll recap: upbringing, bad environment, abusive boyfriend, no father in their life, all that kind of stuff. And when you look at the statistics, and you know what? Another interesting statistic I saw recently: the rate of, and these are studies that have been done. So again, please, anyone watching and you, fact check me. The rate of how many divorces there are amongst gay marriage and the rate of breakups, like in a relationship and broke up, in a relationship and broke up, it's through the roof. Those relationships don't last. So again, the evidence is there. It's not natural. Science doesn't support it. You can't reproduce. Everyone would become extinct if everyone was gay. It's a desire. When you stack all of these things up, to me, it makes perfect sense.
And that's fine. I disagree with you, but that's fine. That's your opinion.
Why do you disagree?
Because, for instance, say one of your friends was, as you said, was gay, but or say, for instance, you woke up tomorrow morning, right? So you were out and you thought, I'm going to go walk and see if I can see any beautiful women who catch my eye. And every woman you look at, you don't have any desire towards them. And then you walk down the street and then you start seeing men in the same way you view women as you probably do just now, and that's all you've seen for men. And you were not fancying the women at all. You didn't think they were good looking. Anytime you looked at a man, you thought really like his haircut and appreciate his muscles, and you felt how you feel towards women now, like you did male. And there's nothing you can do about that, right? You cannot change that mindset. Are you then going to get with a woman and spend the rest of your life unattracted to her, and you can't commit yourself fully to someone, I don't think anyway, unless you are 100% into it, and you wouldn't look away at another area, head turn, going for other people, other men. And again, it's about your inner battle. Or do you potentially, obviously it's not religiously, but it's against your religion, and obviously culture is really strong with it, tend to lose all your family and your friends and suppress how you're feeling for the rest of your life? Are people suppressing how they truly feel
Right.
to stay within their norm and their
Wait,
religion? And is that right? I don't think that is.
You've answered your question in your question because you've said the word suppressing, and that's what I said earlier. Men, married men, single men, we suppress our desire to sleep around, to have more than one woman. Married men, for example, suppress that feeling every day. They do. I speak to them, I see them, we converse, look at how many people have affairs, look at the statistics for that kind of stuff. And in some parts of the world, well, what part of history you look at, before Islam, men used to have wives, even kings of England, 2 wives, 10 wives. Henry VIII changed the British law so that you could, he literally created a law so that you could get divorced and marry another woman. People have had hundreds of wives. Muslims can have 4 if you treat them equally, but it's better to have 1. Just if anyone jumps on that, the Quran says it's best to have 1, but you can have 4. So again, it's and only 4, and it used to be more than that, and Islam reduced it to 4. But that shows you, and even today, men want more women, but we suppress it every day. We suppress it because obedience to God, because promise of heaven. So that's what I'm saying. It's suppression. It's like if I was attracted to a man, I'd be like, right, okay, I'm attracted to him. But what's my purpose in life? Where am I going when I die? What happens next? Okay, well, Islam says your purpose in life is to worship God, to be a good person and all the good, all the good stuff, all the natural stuff. And then also to pray and to fast and to suppress feelings and to get married. We don't have to get married, by the way. Something I learned recently. You don't have to get married, but if you do get married, reproduce, all that kind of stuff, and then treat your wife well and give her rights and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's God's told me to do that. He's my creator. He created me. I'm going to return to him. It's like not going against your parents when you're a kid. You're going to go home to your mum and dad, do as they tell you. They know best for you up to a certain age. When they take scissors out of your hand and you start crying, well, they know best. They took the scissors because you would have hurt yourself or someone else. It's that kind of thing.
But if you're truly gay,
there's no such thing. There's no evidence.
Your opinion, and that's
My
fine.
opinion. That's not my opinion. No, there's no data to prove it. There's no science. There's no scientific facts to prove that. They've done research. They've done tests. They've ran so many experiments. There is no proof that homosexuality is something that you're either born with or that you get. It is a desire.
Yeah. That's your belief, and that's fine. I respect it.
You agree to disagree on that?
That's fine.
See, this is a beautiful thing, Lisa. I've seen people fall out over these things. And I say to people, look, take God away, take religion away, take culture away. We're human first. So talk to each other, share your views in a respectful way. Don't fall out with each other. What are you going to achieve?
Yeah. Talk.
And I see people doing it. Like, look, me and you've just had a nice conversation about God. We disagreed on almost everything, right? But I don't hate you. I'm not going to stop speaking to you. I'm not going to badmouth you, right? And people do it. I've seen it. And I'm like, and I see even my own friends, and I see a lot of Muslims do this too. And it's like, again, the Quran doesn't teach you to do that, but they do it. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you bad mouthing gay people in that way? Why are you bad mouthing certain people in that way? Like, what you do in Islam doesn't say that. The Prophet never, even when people preach Islam, I've seen people mock people and crowds gather and they start laughing, and I'm like, that's going to take the person away from Islam, right? Islam
That's
is
another
love.
thing that takes me away from any sort of because religious beliefs. I couldn't follow a religion that would treat my friends, my family, and say they were making up in their heads. Perhaps it's their desire. You're not that way. Whereas I think, to me, I don't think it was a choice. And that's my opinion, and it's not your opinion, and that's absolutely fine. But going to a religion that almost says it is, I have such strong disagreement that
Not
I'm
just
just
religion,
it's
though.
not something I could believe.
It's not
Hmm?
just religion, though, is it? When you again, when you look at homosexuality, it's not just religion that says that.
No, a lot of people are against it. It's not just religion. I couldn't follow a religion that didn't treat everyone as equals because that's a big part of my philosophy in life, shall we say.
You
Treat
can't.
everyone the same.
Yeah, but would you treat a criminal the same? Would you treat a
Yes.
pedophile the same?
They treat you, sorry?
Somebody's causing corruption in the land, a criminal, a murderer, a pedophile, a few more bad things. You don't treat everyone the same in that way. People deserve punishment.
Yeah, but it's not up to me to punish them.
Exactly. It's up to God to punish
So,
us. That's the
so
point.
therefore, I would treat them the same. I've been in multiple situations with
I'm not saying
pedophiles, murderers,
I'm not
rapists.
saying
I,
I'm not
I do
saying
treat them the
no.
same.
I'm not saying gay people are criminals. By the way, I was just giving the example of you wouldn't treat everyone the
Mhm.
same.
I
You
do. That's what
right,
I'm
so if
saying. I do.
if there is, if I go and kill someone,
Mhm.
do you think I should go to prison?
Do you know, it's actually quite interesting because it depends.
All right, let's say I kill an innocent person.
An innocent person, then yes,
Right.
but it, de-
But you
so
wouldn't
say
treat me
for
the same, you wouldn't treat me the same, would you? You'd be like, right, I need to call the police and you should be arrested. You shouldn't be here.
if I was in your presence, I wouldn't I wouldn't talk to you any different. If I found out you had murdered someone in the past, I'd still talk to you the same way
What
I
if I
do now.
murdered your family?
Then I would like you to go to jail.
I think you wouldn't treat me the same, Lisa. If I murdered your family in front of you, I don't think you'd be sat there giving me equal everything. I think you'd have a reaction, and I think you'd be
I
probably
wouldn't be speaking to you.
you'd
I wouldn't
probably
be speaking to
you'd
you.
probably kill me, right? It's human nature. You'd want revenge. You'd want to do something about it. You would not treat me equally. And again, going back to the homosexuality thing, I say to people, I say to Muslims, pass the message, speak to them. Don't isolate them. Bring them closer. Bring them even more closer than us, because we're on the path. And speak to them. Have a conversation. Don't fall out with people. Don't judge. Don't do that kind of stuff. Just speak. Convey the message. Look, this is what Islam says. This is the message. Do you believe in God? Where do we come from? What's the purpose in life? It goes back down to proof, evidence, uh, logic, all that kind of stuff.
How would you feel if, say for instance, your relative came out as gay
How would I
and
feel?
obviously then so no, I've not finished my question.
Sorry.
So there have been obviously are a very Muslim background and I'm just assuming really believe in Islam and believed in God and really believed in the Quran. Say for instance yourself, right? And you were so conflicted in your own head that you don't know what to do with yourself and you find that people who end up in these situations for long periods of time and even though you're trying to guide them back, oh, like male suicide rates really high,
Hmm.
which again, if you look at the numbers, which I know you like your statistics, if people can't cope with that mental game in their heads, like where does that fall for you?
And it comes down to culture and religion, doesn't it? Because what does religion say? That's
You're
my
wrong.
no.
Culture says you're wrong. Religion says you're wrong.
Doesn't say go kill yourself. If my relative
Say
came
to yourself, no.
if my relative came out as gay, I would spend a lot of time with that person and try and preach Islam to them and bring them back to the path of Islam. That's what I would do. I would not stop speaking to that relative. I wouldn't make them feel shit about it. I wouldn't mock them. I wouldn't beat them. Nothing. I would absolutely spend a lot of time bringing them back to Islam. And then if they adamantly chose not to, I'd be like, look, that's on you. Like, we're all gonna go in our graves. We're gonna get judged one day in the day of judgment. That's on you. I've done my part. I've done my part to you. God can see I've done my part as well. And that's what, again, it says in the Quran, and I keep referring to the Quran. Even in this conversation, the gods gave me the blueprint to have this conversation, because it says, in the end, to you be, I say to you be your religion, and to me be mine. I'm not going to start getting upset or angry or impatient because you're not listening to me and you're not believing me. No, my job is to pass the message. You know, on the day of judgment, you won't, if, I won't say if, when you get asked, did nobody pass you the message? You're going to say, well, Cameron did, right? When you're in that situation, yeah, Cameron passed me the message. I didn't, you know, I didn't take it. You've said you're going to read the Quran. I hope you do. I really hope you do. And there's a lot of things in there. Look, we've been brought up and we've been subjected to homosexuality in the music industry, which is very satanic. The symbolism and the frequencies and all that, which affects your chakras, and it affects you the way you think. And medicines, a lot of side effects in medicines that we've been subjected to, and we've been taught it's normal. But history isn't very relevant, very important. None of this stuff has been part of history. This is all unnatural stuff. I would love to get you back on. I really enjoyed having a chat with you. Thank you for being so open. Honestly, thank you for being open. Thank you for being honest. I'm going to send you a Quran. I would love for you to read it and then come back on.
Oh, it's in English because I can't read
Arabic. Yeah, it's English. No, it's an English translation. I would love for you to read it, even if it's in a year's time. Read it and then come back on, and we'll keep talking.
It's been good fun. It was nice to meet you.
You've enjoyed it, yeah?
Yeah, it's been good.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you soon.
كريم في كتاب